My brother stole the name I'd been saving my whole life for my son, so I handed his boy a nickname he'll be explaining until the kid graduates high school. Dorian has treated my life like a sample rack since we were kids. See something he likes, take it, act like it was always his. In 10th grade, I saved up for months for a jean jacket. He wore it to school before I got the chance and told our friends I'd copied him. The same year, he asked out the first girl I ever liked, the week after I told him about her, then lost interest once he'd proved he could. He applied to the same trade program I was in, dropped out after a semester, and spent years calling it a dead-end field. He gave a toast at my wedding that was somehow entirely about himself, and every time I let it go because he was my little brother and I'd practically helped raise him. Then he took Silas. Silas isn't just a name, it was our grandfather's, the man who took me in when our parents fell apart. Dorian chose to stay with our aunt across the state, so he never really knew him, but I did. Grandpa Silas ran a shrimp boat out of the harbor for 40 years, hands like tree bark, and he raised me on that boat. He used to let me steer while he mended nets, telling me a man's name is the one thing nobody can take if he earns it. When he died, he left me his old logbook and a note that said, "The sea gives back what you put into it." I decided at 19 that if I ever had a son, he'd carry that name. I kept it folded up inside me through a decade of trying, 2 losses with my wife, and every quiet fear that it might never happen. Dorian knew all of it. He'd watched me tear up telling those shrimp boat stories at Thanksgiving. So when he stood up at his gender reveal and announced the baby would be named Silas, classic, kind of distinguished, don't you think? I felt the floor tilt. I pulled him aside. "You know what that name means to me," he shrugged, swirling his drink. "You're not even a dad, man. Might never be, the way things are going. Sounds better on my kid anyway." Then he smiled, pleased with himself, and walked back to his guests. That was the moment something in me went cold and calm. Here's the thing about my family. We are hopelessly nickname prone. My cousin's been Waffle since he fell asleep in a plate of them at 4. My uncle is Radio because he never stops talking. My aunt is just Bird. Nobody in 3 generations has been called their real name past age 2. And Dorian spent his whole adult life trying to scrub off where we came from. He hated the harbor, hated the smell of it, told his fancy new friends he grew up near the coast, like we summered there. So when the baby came, I got there first. I leaned over the bassinet and said, "Real warm. Look at him. Tiny little shrimp, just like his great-grandpa. Grandpa Silas, the shrimper, little shrimp." Dorian's wife thought it was adorable. My mother teared up at the connection. The first time Dorian heard it, he laughed it off. The second time he said, "Please don't." The third time, my grandmother was already saying it, then my aunt, then the whole family chat. Every photo captioned our little shrimp. There's a real story behind it, and this family will die for a nickname with a story. By the time the baby was 6 months old, even the receptionist at the pediatrician's office had it written on his file, because that's what everyone said at every appointment. Dorian fought it. He corrected people at every dinner. He posted that the baby's name was Silas Grant, and he'd appreciate people using it. You cannot win against a nickname that's grown its own heartbeat. The more he pushed, the harder it stuck. It sealed itself at the boy's first birthday. My grandmother had ordered the cake, and across the top, in blue icing, the baker had written what she told him the baby was called, "Happy Birthday, Shrimp." The whole room cheered. Dorian stood there with a vein going in his temple, holding a knife over a cake that had branded his son for good. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. Every time he introduces that boy as Silas, someone says, "Oh, you mean shrimp," and he gets that tight little smile that's really a scream folded in half. He took the one name I'd kept sacred my whole life, so I gave it right back to him, attached to the exact heritage he spent years pretending he didn't have. He can explain that one at every school pickup for the next 18 years.